Alright guys, welcome back. Today we are doing a holster for a 357 snub. I have removed the cylinder in order to make sure it stays safe, as you can see. No accidental gunfires in this household. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this large chunk of 4-ounce bark tan leather. We're going to sit it somewhere in the middle. Overlap until we have about 2 inches of overlap. I'm going to mark it, square it, and cut it off there. Set the pistol side. Not quite done with that. Now I could use a pair of scissors, but for this type of cuts, I find that flipping my square around and lining it up on my lines and using a razor knife or my pocket knife, which is also razor sharp, cuts a hell of a lot better and straighter than my scissors do. Alright, let's square up this top. Never thought it would be for a time against one of our own. Sell it and ask you. Okay, so we take our pistol, find our overlap corners. We're going to need at least an inch to an inch and a half of overlap just to be on the safe side. Okay, now since we know where the center of this is, roughly located. I'm going to make sure it stays easy to locate. I'm not going to crease this, but I am going to put a nice little bend in it so it stays where we need it. Okay, how holds nice and shape. Okay, now we know where center is. We take pistol and lay it so the top sight is just barely poking out and the front sight rests against the middle. Eventually we're going to round this down in a little bit. But for now, it'll serve our purposes. Fold it open, take our pencil, and maintaining our 1 inch as best as possible, I am going to do this. I'm just going to cut along these lines. Then I'm going to fold it in half and finish my cut. And I'm going to do a preliminary tooling to it. You know, like the guy that wants this wants a basket weave pattern on the front of it. So that's what we're going to do. I just picked up a new basket weave stamp for that this morning. Alrighty then. set that aside. Now, as you can see, it fits the pistol with a nice little bit of overlap. Since we're going to trim this just a little bit down this way anyway, what I am going to do, since he wants a he wants to set a sideways draw on his belt, so we have to set this up a little differently. I got to punch a hole up here. Actually, I might just run a groove down to here. It'll make working a little easier, and then run my groove with a 4-punch or 4-hole punch. That way I can do a preliminary stitch and figure out where I need to set my center line for the basket weave. I probably do it just like this. You know what, I'm just going to do it like this. And I'll groove and stitch through the basket weave later. Oh, crap, I don't have my mallet. Ouch, on my knee. Okay, what I'm going to do, set my center line. You see, that wasn't all that hard. Left a nice little 1/8 inch lip where I can see what the heck I'm doing. Next, I'll pull out my water and start doing my basket weave, which will run at a diagonal. And I'll show you how to do that here in a few minutes. I gotta get up and get that. Folding sponge. We're still out. Right. Awesome. Okay. And I'm trying to set this on my lap because there are people sleeping in the household. That way I'm not making a whole crap load of noise. So please forgive me for moving the camera around so much. as you can see, it gets kind of tedious, and I will catch up with you guys as soon as this part is done. Alright? See you when I'm done. Alright guys, welcome back. I finished up all the interweave basket weave pattern on the whole scabbard. This is not the final shape, mind you. We have a lot of work to do before we even get to the final shape. Before we can do that, I had to put this cylinder back in the revolver so I can soak this down and go over it with the burnishing tool to get the final shape on the holster. Before we can do any of that though, I've got to stitch this entire edge. Let me zoom back out so you can see what's going on here. Oh, my camera's acting up. Ow, 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 ow. Oh. Sorry about that, my knee dislocated. Okay, there we go. Okay, I'm going to stitch this entire outer edge here and then soak the leather down and use my burnishing tool, which I will show you in just a minute. Alright, this is my burnishing tool. It's a craft tool which I purchased at Tandy Leather. It's got multiple sizes. It's one of my favorite tools to use. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at where the gap is on the holster so we see how much room we have to stitch, come up with final shape. Okay, by the trigger guard, I've got roughly 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch. So I think for my grooving tool, I'm going to drop that down to about 1/16 of an inch. That way I can go back over and trim everything out that I'm not going to use. Where the hell did my screwdriver go? Uh-oh. Oh, I know it's at. It's in here. Oh, I got my measure. It'll work. Okay. Okay, so the barrel stops right there. So we take pencil, wherever the hell it went. Oh, there it is. And mark it. Alright, got a nice deep groove. Throw all that scrap away. Alright, now we take our 4-hole punch. Start down here at the bottom. Make sure you punch all the way through. You line up in your last hole with one of the tines. That way, every hole is the same distance apart. Alright, as you see, we get to the end here. We've got a small space, so you can't fit the whole thing. So you look to see how many times you can fit. We can only fit one, which is alright. We're going to trim that down a little bit anyway. Alright, now we fold it over, make sure everything lines up on the edge nice and tight. And hold it nice and steady. Go through your very first set of holes to make sure you can start at the same exact spot with the grooving tool. And finish. Okay, now I get to stitch it together. I'm going to use a Lazy Man's saddle stitch. Lazy Man's saddle stitch. That way, and I'm not going to stitch it 100%. You know, I'm only going to stitch it down to where we started the holes at one side. That way I can save all this sinew that I'm using and then go back and use it to restitch later. Damn it. Freaking smoke went out again. You know what? I changed my mind. I'm going to use a simple saddle stitch for this. Just to hold it in place. I'll catch up with you when this is all stitched. Alright guys, as you can see, it fits really well, but it's not the final shape we want. We want it to fit the pistol really, really tightly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to oil the gun up a little, really good. Then I'm going to soak the leather with warm water so it'll shape, and then I'm going to use my burnishing tool to rub in the shape of the pistol and the cylinder. And I will show you how that works out here in just a minute. I will be right back to show you that. Alright. Alright, everything's been ready, set up, ready to go. So what we do is we take the burnishing tool, to get the shape, and we always work from the back of the gun to the front. You could also do this with a homemade press. You'd have to cut out the shape of the pistol and whatnot, set it in, and clamp everything down really, really tight. As you can see, it kind of messes up the effect of the basket weave pattern, but that's okay. We're going to go back over it later. And clean up that basket weave pattern really nice. Once this is shaped with the wet leather, we let it dry with the gun inside the holster so it holds its shape really well. And hell, we still got to put a strap and a snap on this yet, so we can't. We have to make sure that we don't seal everything up. We're gonna rivet those little bastards into place. Alright, it's going to take a couple days for this to dry, so I'm going to pause this for now and catch up to you when everything's set up for the next portion of the video. Alright, as you can see, I've got it shaped and it's all dried and ready to go. So what I have to do next is I got to edge it, which is rounding all the edges off. And then I've got to go back over the basket weave pattern because it looks like crap. It doesn't show up anything unless you look at the back side, which looks like it's in really good shape. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to do all the edging.
Exactly. I first noticed in the village out here in the forest as well. An unusual stillness. There are no birds. Or any other animals for that matter.
Listen. So.
Very well. Very well. Well, you know, all things considered. I mean, you'd assume I'd be a prime candidate for acculturation difficulty, enduring feelings of displacement and alienation, perhaps even a little paranoid ideation. The truth is, I was able to adopt an abstract attitude which allowed me to release some of my repressed feelings, ultimately providing me with a cathartic actualization. How do you feel?
It's nothing here. He's long cabin, which you presume she's in the area.
Well, it's getting dark. We should head back to the village.
Back. You, back. Wake up. We're done. Sorry, Jack. Are you familiar with ink blot tests? Okay. I'm going to show you a series of images. I just want you to say the first thing that comes to your mind.
Courage. Respect.
You look at this ink blot, and the first thing that pops into your head is respect.
Yes. Respect.
This is called a projective test. It's designed to allow me a little insight into your emotional state. I just want to get to know you.
Okay, as you see what I'm doing there, I'm going back over my work. So I am going to pause this and get that done. And then I'll get back with you when I'm ready to do some more grooving and stitching. Alright guys, catch you up on where I'm at. I've got it all nice and shaped. I mean, it's pretty rigid. That's what you get for using a 6-ounce leather. I've taken the liberty of punching a hole right there. I will be doing the same over here. And I will be popping a couple of rivets through there. But before I do that, I gotta take another rivet and give it a light sanding on both ends, so when I go to paint it later, the paint will stick better. Now I'm using a 600 grit sandpaper, wet dry. Oh, I should probably turn my other light on so you guys can see better. Hell, I can see better. There, that's done. Put that up there with the other one. Turn my block a little bit.
No, honey, I can go. Me too. Well, I can sit there and hold off on it, but the bill's not actually due until December 26th.
There. Okay, now that's done. Now, I've pre-cut and pre-marked the strip I'm going to use for the belt piece. Gonna sit around about like this on the back. That way it'll hold the pistol at a sideways angle. Alright, I'll catch you up when I get everything all ready to go. So I gotta make 2 grooves back here. The same, or no, same width as these 2 up here. And then I gotta do the same thing down the bottom once I get it all cut out. But I'll get everything cut out and then make my grooves that way. That way I'm not doing multiple steps more than one time. Alright, I'll catch you up when I'm ready to go. Alright guys, this is what we've got going on so far. What I've done is I've punched holes all down this outer line and did a simple whip stitch on the outside of this piece here to hold it in place while I punch holes so I can stitch it up top. Before I can do anything else, I have to get this stitched, which is going to be fun. Alright, I'll catch up to you when I get everything all stitched together before we stain anything. Well, excuse me, all the holes punched before we stain anything. And then I'll show you what we got. Alright. Alright guys, as you can see, I've taken the liberty of making some extra preparations that needed to be done. This piece here is for the hammer. And you see I punched a hole for it. It'll rivet there. And then it'll snap over on this side over here. Right there. Which I've also punched a hole for. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I am going to stain this a nice black. And then I will super sheen it. And I'll hit it with like the 600 grit sandpaper. So it's not shiny, but it will be kind of like a satin black. So I will see you guys when everything's ready to assemble. Alright, we're all ready to assemble. Everything's all nice and dry and painted or stained and ready to go. So the first thing I'm going to do is assemble the snap area. That way I can get everything in place and good to go. And I'm using a line 24 snap. There, that's not moving. Push that off the side. Rivet. Alright, let me grab the pistol and clamp, oh, the clamp's right there, and we'll see how it sits in there. As you can see, I made it so where the strap comes directly over the hammer, and the hammer cannot be cocked as a safety precaution. I think that'll work nicely. Now, as you can see here, I sanded that with the 600 grit as well so I could paint it. And now I gotta do a little bit of tiny trim in there just so I can fit this piece on without having to worry about alignment. Alright, once I get everything stitched together, well actually once I get this piece on, which I'm going to use a black synthetic sinew, and I will be using a standard saddle stitch. See you when it's complete. Welcome back, guys. I have finished the pistol holster for the 357 snub. This is what it looks like. All the brass rivets have been painted. They're not going to peel anytime soon. As you can see, the hammer stop prevents the hammer from moving a whole lot. And with the pistol held upside down and shaking, it does not come out. That is a good, solid fit. And I really hope the guy that I made it for really likes it. There's only one thing I have left to do on it, and that's to put my maker's mark somewhere. I haven't quite decided where I want to put it. Now I want to talk to you all about my Patreon page. I could really use anybody's help for anything. I mean, if you can help, feel free. If not, don't worry about it. I am not pushing the issue too much, but any help I receive would be great. Thank you guys for watching, and I will put a link in my subscriptions to my Patreon page. See y'all next time.